Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you we're here to talk about resumes right here. That I'm sure that a lot of us who are going to be job seekers that if you're going to be looking for a job that want to know too is to where a lot of the things that they have nowadays, including what you calls like it's like you have other websites such as to where you can go ahead and upload your resume, and then a lot of your information will be placed inside those spots, including certain applications to where that they'll ask you for position and interest and all that other stuff about really too about the source of education and all that. But whenever I was going through this some of these files here, including my resume, that I also noticed too that a lot of things that maybe employers may have missed also, and one of those things is probably going to be is to where if it's related to about the skills and as well as links, so and your URL links, and I know that most of the time though it sure seems that way if it's going to be maybe a portfolio too. That see this right here, everybody. That with the links, so that when we click on the links and it takes the employer, the person who's looking at that resume, takes them directly to that web page. So it sure seems that way to where that a lot of stuff that we see right here that's supposed to be on one page on one document, and more likely than not all the companies are really going to notice that or realize that, and so that is why just a little bit is to where okay they were not able to see that before, but still does every resume and every cover letter require any source of instruction manual? And let's just say that the instruction manual is maybe going to include like, well, okay, this is what you click on for more information about this or that. And so like we were to where whenever you turn a resume into an employer, or just to have a hiring manager look at it, it seems like that you want to maybe ask that question to where do you need the instructions on how to view the resume. And so it's like I say is to where that we all know that resumes can be viewed electronically, so it sure seems that way that a lot of times, so that there's a system that's going to process the applications, but based on the software like the systems the companies are using. But I could tell you one thing though, that with this resume here that I've updated quite a few times, most of the time it seems like it's all about to help other hiring help businesses and companies better understand what I do, and I just really think too is toward that it's the links right here that I'll go and show everybody here that that there's if we've seen this before to where you can actually these tools right here to where I think the Pro DC for the Creative Cloud, the Adobe Acrobat Pro DC right here, so you have access to a few of these tools right here, and one of those tools is going to be like the signature, and like I was talking about before, that whenever it comes to signing something electronically, that what does that basically mean, and you have right here's that name right here. But I also think too that tell everybody that that whenever you're going to be you have these tools right here that we can go ahead and click on, and then it sure seems that way to where that so I say that that say fill out, and then it will say fill and sign and send. So if you want to send an email, and then you'll get others to sign. So a lot of the stuff right here that's access to you from the Pro DC right here, and so it sure seems that way that besides the documents and resumes being modified and all that, but still though I just really think though is to where that I'll show everybody here that you say control, and then just to be able to click on you just to be able to go directly to that web page right there, and it sure seems that way that whenever companies are going to be looking at a resume, though, it sure seems that way that all they really see right here is this information right here, which I know they say that it's really hard to understand what all this is all about, but still though it sure seems that way to where that there's going to need to be which calls some source of description of instructions available, just because that if any companies maybe insurance companies who don't quite understand hi, what to click on when they look at a resume electronically. A lot of things that you more likely see on your side that they can't see on their side. So it sure seems that way to where that whenever there is a job interview scheduled, more likely chances are that yeah, it's going to maybe be about more than 5 minutes sometimes, and yeah, that whenever you talk to the hiring team and they ask you to come back there, the second after maybe after the third time, you just ask you some questions about verify some other things. So half the time you weren't to where how do you know really whenever you know you got the job and way I think about too, though, that even if it is something related to about, yeah, that the purpose to why that you made this interview, of course, was just to stay is toward it. Yeah, you got a letter about something, and then one of those letters could maybe also be about is to where if you're in the near future, if you want to subscribe or if you want to buy insurance, and let's just say if one of the reasons why you made this appointment was to go ahead and to purchase insurance or something like that, to buy insurance. And but the way I think about it too, that for any reason at all, that why that you came in and made an appointment with a company, just to go in there and just to show them some stuff. But it sure seems that way that that the work based on what you do has to be provided either way, and it sure seems that way that even if it is a doctor's appointment, that they're going to want to see the doctor, he or she is going to want to see the work that you do, and it sure seems that way that yeah, that the work that I do, and so that's why that it sure seems that way that the work that I do, that some might say that yeah, the work that you do do this a lot of this digital stuff, but the way I think about it too, though, is that whenever I look at the resume right here, though, I'm like you have right here's the PDF file copy right here, and then you have the Word document, and so it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be, and I know that. Like I say with the cloud storage, because a lot of things that I could probably talk about right here that I know that's maybe going to be a little bit confusing to some of those hiring managers, just because that yeah, that one of those reasons is maybe going to be about okay, yeah, that whatever that means. I'm like the Creative Cloud, and I don't quite understand that, or I'm like yeah, so let's just say that, and I know I've done this before, but say if you want to maybe attach some sticky notes or something like that to the resume right here, but it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be working on your resume, though, that a lot of times though that yeah, that you have a professional resume writer go ahead and write the resume for you, just because that yeah, it's a type of source of language that maybe most employees would understand a little bit more. And I could say too that really that a resume is supposed to be like is supposed to be a marketing tool, everybody. But the way I think about it too, though, that it's supposed to represent you. But the way I think about it too is that yeah, that shouldn't there be what you call that ability to where you could present your resume for how comfortable that you feel to the hiring manager, instead of having to deal with all these requirements, and then let's just say that if it's going to be what you call real strong suggestions, because for sure that, like I say, is to a resume, though, whenever you're going to have a resume that it sure seems that way to where that's not it. I like to say that, yeah, that's not it. That whenever you show your resume to a business, though, it sure seems that way that a few things that that company had missed, and so they're going to maybe tell you something like, yeah, well, we didn't see this part. You didn't explain that very clearly about it. But I want to show everybody, yeah, talk about signatures right here, and also digital, and then you have right here Earth and Discover. The World Wide Web right here, but I know that that I was talking about before, though, that a lot of things that really come to my mind whenever I see this right here. But the way I think about it too, though, is to where whenever you're going to be looking at a resume, though, it sure seems that way. It's like, yeah, compared to the black and white version compared to the color version, and you one or two is that whenever you look at a black and white version of something, and half the time there are a lot of things that you don't quite understand or that you don't quite realize, and I really don't think that's really the case, but let's just say that you say on the resume that technical support and with managing online orders, digital printing, as well as using a fax machine. So a lot of stuff that I was also thinking too, especially pop-up windows, and I want to show everybody here. I'm like talk a little bit about that, but yeah, you can play sticky notes, and so yeah, that I'll go ahead if I can. But show everybody here that with sticky notes, because I know that a lot of times it sure seems that way to where that whenever you have it to where that with sticky notes that see here if it's go ahead and yeah, that's just okay, that's comments, but yeah, there's yeah, comments. So this right here, I'm like how many of us, whenever you're going to be applying for a job, and maybe if you get any responses from a hiring manager, and they're not going to say anything such as nice work or something like that, but if anything that keep on file, and if anything that they're going, your hiring managers maybe going to say that something such as they reply, they get your resume. But still, they're going to maybe leave a message, maybe in quotation marks or something like that, about that we'll get back to you, or if anything that you'll keep on file. But still, though, that can you really think about is as to where if you're going to be leaving any comments, to maybe to a hiring team, and want to know too is to where a lot more to this. So let's just say that if you leave a message like that to an employer, and let's just say that whoever that looks at the resume, you can go ahead and use like a Pro DC to go ahead and place these post these comments right here. So it sure seems that way that you can actually start like a conversation, and I really don't know if I would recommend that on a resume, if anything on a cover letter, in case of anybody that might say too that on a cover letter that you can go ahead and add in a comment or two, and what did the hiring manager thought about, okay, they had a chance to look at your resume, this is what they think, and, it could also maybe be related to about the fact about, that with the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, though, that whenever it comes to about the fact about, comments, though, that whenever you leave, comments, though, and so let's just say that if you save this file and then maybe save it and then send it to the hiring team, it sure seems that way that they'll be able to look at the comments, and then but I guess my question that I kind of have is to where that that whenever you send a resume, we got here's a highlighter right here, but so a future is born right here. So I just really think too is that you have the highlighter, and then you also have what's called the Creative Cloud. So your future is born, and your digital is only the beginning. A future is born right here. So this right here is, I put that right there so that we can catch a lot of the hiring team's attention. But still, it sure seems that way that that whenever you're going to be working a resume, though, that like I said before, is to where a resume was never a secret, but let's just say that employers might even say too that a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that were not discovered on a resume yet, just because that that a lot of things that business did not see on a resume, and then they're going to be asking about exactly what's this all about right here. But you see right here is that this right here is it talks about the sticky notes right here, the comments. But still, now I would maybe like to know that just a little bit too, is to where that whenever companies do look at your resume, And a lot of times it's like, yeah, that they don't leave no sticky notes on the side of the document like that. And want to know just a little bit too is to where that, yeah, that so half the time it sure seems that way, that whenever you're going to be working, putting together a resume, and then let's just say if it's modified and all that, proofread, whichever you want to call it, that there's going to be companies that are going to be looking at that resume and want to know that, yeah, that about that resume though, that a lot of things that that company they had missed about your resume. And the way I think about it too, though, that number of times I've applied for a job, it sure seems that way to where they denied your application. I might say they denied it by mistake because, I read the job descriptions, and a lot of times it seems like that a lot of these jobs, I don't know why they keep denying my job application, but still, that I get these automatic responses though, and a lot of times it sure seems that way, that maybe a lot of things that they missed about my resume. But the way I think about it, though, is like one of those things, of course, is going to be about is that, yeah, 5 years, using the Microsoft Digital Software, and as well as about the resume, though. Takes you directly to the web page and tell everybody, too, that yeah, about the web page, that with it, about the web page, though, it sure seems that way, that companies that don't quite understand all this stuff right here, and especially like for any source of web pages or portfolios, that companies that were not able to locate that URL link, and so that's why it sure seems that way, that a URL link is provided on a cover letter or even on a resume, and so it sure seems that way, that yeah, about that, the cover letter and the resume, and want to know too is to where that the reasons to why that you think that that this job is right for you, mainly because of the fact about do you have the training and skills required of what the job is asking for, and the other reason maybe could also be about is to where, yeah, you were referred by a friend to say that there was stating that there was an opening over there, just over there at the office or something like that. But I also want to talk about here is like this electronic signature right here, and yeah, that I know a lot of those documents, which I'll go ahead and talk about later on, but which I know I posted up a video talking about that, but I know that as we all know, that like say that signature is the proof of the presence right here, and like I say that yeah, that do you really have to write a cover letter about that? Talking about the proof of the presence is that you can go ahead and sign your name on a document, but then of course this document is going to be sent electronically to a company that could be within miles away, hundreds of miles away, and just think as to where that yeah, whenever you sign something, and a lot of times too that as we all know here, that whenever you do sign something, it's just like buying something. Like say, yeah, if you have a PayPal account, just like paying money up forward, that it's just the same thing way it goes with signing something. So it sure seems that way, that that whenever we think about your signature, though, that we we're all used to the fact about that signing something just to show somebody how to spell our name. It could also be related to the fact of the matter is that yeah, the full name, and maybe the name at birth, and also clear about if you're a U.S. citizen, and maybe that if you go by your middle name instead of your first name or something like that. But still, that yeah, your full name especially. You say that yeah, if you got like a nickname or a maiden name that you use, but still though, it your initials. And I can tell you by here that a lot of times it's my initials. Whenever you sign a document, that they'll want to know your initials, so that way they can go ahead and proceed with the application, with the paperwork and process and all that, especially if it's on a tax return. But the way I think, I'm like, yeah, you and I even think either that that there would be a problem to where that your application would be denied, just because there's no autograph, there's no signature right there. So it's like, yeah, that number of times that companies are going to be telling you that, yeah, that there's an autograph is missing on it, but still, it show everybody here the Word document right here, but times that updated this, but you see right here all these other features right here for Windows right here, share and the Adobe PDF, but still, that talking about that, if it's a government files, that anything that's modified as well as pre-editing, but still a lot of things. As we all know, that like a transcript, that there's like these transcripts that they say that you can't change anything on a transcript. So let's just say that if you're going to be looking at using the Adobe Acrobat Reader to look at these transcripts, and I know they say that yeah. So that's why that encourage, and I know that with like software programs, so that yeah, Word documents can be edited, and then the PDF files, I say yeah, you can go back and pre-modified edit your files, but still, if it's going to be a transcript and a lot of those answers and information on there, they can't be changed, and you're likely one or two that even if there is a couple of errors, typo errors or something like that, but still. But really though, that I really think too that a resume, I'm like, yeah, that supposed to show your skills, but the way I think about it too, though, that whenever it comes to resumes, though, that you have to, here's the cover letter right here, but the way I think about it, though, is that that whenever it comes to putting together a resume, that it sure seems that way, that you really you see a lot of things that maybe other employers can't see, and one of those, I say, yeah, that exactly about that, who you are, and then as well as the purpose to why you want the job. So you have right here's this cover letter right here, and you have right here is the link to my portfolio. So it sure seems that way that jobs, though, whenever you apply these jobs, that want to know just a little bit too as to where how come companies don't ask the questions to where that yeah, that anything about you. I'm like, so yeah, do they really give you time to really let you explain who you are and why do you think that this job is right for you, and all that? Really though, that whenever you apply to these jobs, even online, it sure seems that way, that you got to talk to somebody in person just to really go to the next steps, and that just seems like that's the case. And I guess that one of those reasons is because of a number of application people need to show up to their interviews. It could be a number of reasons, but still, whenever you go to a doctor's appointment, it sure seems that way, that you don't really have a cover letter ready so that we can show the doctor, and so that's why it sure seems that way, that yeah, that you have like a portfolio or a cloud, something on your phone that you can go and show the doctor about what you do. Say, what do you do for a living? And so it's like I say, is that whenever it comes to putting together a resume, and I just really think too is that a lot of things that employers have missed about my resume, and you're likely thinking too that, okay, one of those things is going to be a link, a URL link. I say that how many employees, hiring managers are going to maybe say is to where that they missed the information on your website, and as well as the work that you do, and as well as the database or anything like that. But I just really think also that whenever it comes to putting together a resume, that the first thing is that yeah, what software program are you using just to be able to look at that document? And so I'm likely one or two is that whenever you do talk to hiring managers, it's like the only thing that they really see most of the time is a lot of this information right here. It's like say that they're not able to see everything, but still. But goes by the question as to where that should hiring managers be able to see everything about your skills? And even if they did, then why likely that they might not understand what you're talking about. But still, that I just really think too is that looking at this right here, and it seems like that yeah, that you really are the only one that yeah, since our resume is supposed to yeah, it's supposed to represent the future, but then also that you really are the only one who really understands your own resume, just because yeah, it's the marketing tool, but besides that though, should it also be something related to about that, like yeah, that if you know a lot about the resume you put together, it's just like a recipe. You just like a cake. It's just like baking a cake. So, like say that you add up your own ingredients, and then not everybody's really going to understand that. But the way I think about it too, though, that whenever it comes to using software programs such as Acrobat Reader, that yeah, that whenever you do submit your resumes to these companies, and it sure seems that way, that yeah, that making sure that they are using the right up-to-date software, and even know that a lot of the things about the job, and we all know nowadays that most jobs are going to say that yeah, you need a license, or if anything that it requires you to travel, and it may even require you to have what you call a specific amount of training and all that. But I just want to mention also about is that with most of the time though, it sure seems that way. No secret of the matter, but still though that whenever it comes to resumes though, I have right here is a future is born right here. If we can see that right there, and then also digital is only the beginning right here. So what I mean by that also is that whenever I talk about digital is only the beginning right here, is that yeah, that there's a lot more, there's a lot more that you can do with this computer stuff. And I'm also talking about the use of the mobile apps, because I've seen it done before, especially the Creative Cloud right here, especially the cloud storage right here, the Creative Cloud. And there's a lot more to this skill using digital. Whenever it comes to digital, digital does not just mean provided electronically, but then also that people might even say too for pre-editing and copywriting, and so is duplication. But then also that there's another way of how you want to say it, is toward that that the new advanced systems, and also if you want to call it, is toward it to be discovered by that by that candidate. And so whenever I talk about digital is only the beginning and the future is born, no, that what about my resume that approaches everybody else that maybe they can only get from me? And that's kind of like what I was talking about, really. That really, they can get it maybe from me, and then I train up. And it's like anybody say too, that whenever you do train other employers and other clients about a job, and then they become better at something, and especially like remote jobs, and say that if you're going to be doing any remote work, for any companies, and like I'm thinking too that you go ahead and it kind of passes off to where other members though, and other clients, whoever it is, that you train them of how to be a good employee. You train them on how to use some of these programs and softwares, and half the time it sure seems that way, that yeah, you train somebody and then they become better, more advanced, and more familiar with all the other programs. But still, why know just a little bit too, as to where really who discovered it, and if anything that who is able to get that person back on their feet, something like that. But anyway, but you have right here talking about with digital printing, and as well as using a fax machine and a remote control. So a lot of these skills right here that, as we all know, that your photography though, what I'm talking about right here is like these skills right here of like I say, is toward digital printing and digital coupons. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about here is based on computer work. So it's not like that, okay, yeah, all the skills that you do have, that if you were maybe be if you were applying for a nursing job, then what sorts of medications and medical studies and coding do you know of? So let's just say if you are applying for an engineering job or if it's a nursing job, then you would probably say something like know a lot about the pharmacy and as well as 3 years of experience using it for medical coding as well as research on the medical lab research or something like that. So yeah, that whenever you put your skills on there, that a few things that I put out for Acrobat right here, but still though, whenever I was looking at the skills right here, that I was also putting on here about for what I usually see on these job descriptions. And so like I say too, is that that there's nothing on the resume here that talks about licensing for insurance or anything like that. But about my resume though, that there's you can say too, it's supposed to look like one document right here. But let's just say though that that for other employers that might even say too, if they can actually figure it out to where that they can go to your LinkedIn file and then they can also go to your website and want to know that the website right here. And I'll go and show everybody here this Adobe Bridge right here because this is another thing that I want to talk about right here too. With whenever it comes to managing files, but through the Creative Cloud, but you have right here of like with the Bridge software right here, and it's just another way of how you want to go ahead and handle your files. And so that's just the thing though, that you copy and paste tool, and then still that you have, if you want to kind of call them commands, that this is where these are where the files are located, and then this is what you want to do with them. So a lot of times it's a right click of the mouse that you get more options there. So it's like not all these files, of course, are going to be saved on just one system. Some of them are saved on the cloud. So you're likely thinking too that with the cloud though, that you're likely wondering that with the cloud though, that whenever you're going to be looking at something that is related to about the fact about that have any files saved on a system, on a personal computer, or if anything, it's going to be saved in the cloud storage. It's online. So it sure seems that way that that if you're going to have a lot of files though, and want to know that they all look like just if you want to comment here, they all look like little paperclip type icons right here until you actually open them up and you're able to see a lot more information about them. But still though, so let's just say if this was an example of if you're going to be building a website and then what files and what images are going to be placed in certain margins and floats and all that, you just use sorts of what you call digital coding. Any links or anything like that. So it sure seems that way that with this digital technology right here it sure seems that way that what does everything right here look like? It all looks like something that maybe you would see maybe like in a film strip or something like that, library, and so just quite a bit just works just a little bit differently. But still though, what's a good way of how you want to explain about this from what we see on our computers, especially in the cloud storage right here. And you want to look at it, it's maybe just a little bit like a library. Whenever you look on the bookshelf for a favorite book title, and a lot of times that you're able to read and go through the files in like a certain category right here. So if you want to look at it, just a little bit like a library right here. So we all know that whenever you go to a library, if you look up a book title, that it would show up something like kind of like this, maybe a list down to where what your favorite author, and maybe if it's a science fiction or non-fiction book or something like that. So it's basically it's the same thing as like if you were to be going to a library and looking up a book title. That whenever you go into a cloud storage, that you can actually find a lot of the files that you've been working on, any data that you've been working on, and if you want to share any files with anybody, that this will be your place where you would go right here. It's like the bridge, and also if you use the Windows or the Macs when folder storage location just to find some of those files. So it sure seems that way that whenever you're going to be putting together a resume, that you're going to talk about these exact same skills that are going to be put and updated on a resume that maybe not all hiring managers are going to realize. And so that's why it sure seems that way to where yeah, just to make the long story short, that what are these companies really going to say is to where that they're going to go and look at your resume and they see right here is that, yeah, okay, whatever that's supposed to mean right there, okay, whatever that means, okay, I know a little bit about what you're talking about. But still, though, I just really think, though, is that a source of education also, but then it's like, a lot of things about a resume that I have found and I have been thinking about here lately, though, is to where that a lot of things about the resume that maybe other employers have missed, and one of those is going to be a website and to your portfolio. So it sure seems that way that there is a lot more questions about a resume than compared to whenever you apply online. I'm like, yeah, whenever you apply online and compared to talk to an actual person, and you're able to show him some of that stuff, and then they'll make the decision, about whether if you're hired or not. And I can tell you one thing, everybody, that whenever I do go to a lot of interviews, and let's just say if it's going to be a doctor's appointments, though, that it sure seems that way that you have to show somebody some of this work. And I guess the question kind of goes by is to where your resume does not really have to be provided on a paper document. If anything, have your mobile phone ready, have it handy to where you can actually show a hiring team what you do and have that available on a mobile phone. And so have the link to your portfolio, have that bookmark, and have that ready to be presented to the employee that whenever you get there to that job, and so that way you can show them your skills and all that. But still, it sure seems that way that even if you are working a job where it's basically marketing, or maybe if it is doing a lot of ask you about maybe being a consultant or somebody like that, front desk assistant or something like that, that they're not really familiar with a lot of stuff here with digital technology, and as well as going through files and all that. So it sure seems that way. Yeah, freelancer work. It sure seems that way that most of the work right here that I present is really what you would maybe see in like freelancer type work. But still, though, when it comes to what you call computer expert, though, that want to know is that a lot of this stuff right here, including medical papers, though, that's whenever you want to go and talk to the digital expert. You just know about what does digital basically mean? Does that mean that granted access to the digital software, maybe using it properly as you're licensed to do, or does that mean that you're properly trained on how to use it? But still, based on from my experience, I can tell everybody here, based on from my experience, though, it sure seems that way that you can use this software like for anything that you got to take care of online. And I've had a lot of my experience with taking care of it online, because if you try to take care of it through a paper document, then you know how that is, put it in the mailbox, and especially stamping it and all that, and having to wait about maybe up to 1 to 2 weeks, especially if it's a tax return, having to wait about up to 5 to 10 business days for it to be processed. But if you follow it electronically, then you're within about 2 hours or so it's processed. So it's like a lot of electronic stuff. But the way I think about too, though, that whenever I look at this electronic software, these digital programs, though, it's not designed to help people cheat. It's not there to allow people to where they can go ahead and provide false information or allow them to cheat on an application. It was designed, in case of anybody that may wonder that too, provided electronically, as well as providing that information using that program to where it's installed, even the free editions, the free versions, though, that whenever you're going to be looking at some of that information, it's provided electronically, so that way it can go into the system. It will be sent electronically to the systems, and especially if it's going to be sent out of state. And let's just say that yeah, if you're trying to send a document out of state, then that's basically what you'll be working with. Is that any electronic documents are going to be sent, to an office and say electronically, and so that's why that it sure seems that way. That looking at a resume right here and 102 is like a future is born, digital is only the beginning. Is that that's really the beginning stage of the tools and the programs that I've used, and basically on promotion for the next stage of software. And let's just say the next stage is, like I say, if it's not going to be digital, it's going to be graphics and web design and motion pictures or something like that. And but still, whenever I talk about technology, though, that I'm also talking about is that for how we make it. Also, it's not about the fact about, that you can do whatever you want with it. Just like your own makeup kit or something like that. You can go ahead and put you can have fun with it, and there is no rules. But still, that most hiring managers would more likely say too that to look at your resume and want to know just a little bit too, to where, hey, I don't recall seeing that before. But anyway, so talk about right here of like the links right here, and I'll go and show everybody here that this right here that you have right here is with the links right here that you have right here is the signature right here, like I said before, and 2022 right here. So this right here would be an example of what my desktop would look like right here, and say at the calendar right here. But still, whenever it comes to signatures, though, that whenever you apply for a job, and even after you go through the step of presenting your resume to a company, and then let's just say that the next step, for sure is going to be signing and dating the document, and for sure they'll say that is to where if it's not going to be Acrobat Reader, that they're going to go ahead and send you an email and tell you that, hey, that we need you to sign here and put your initials right here, and modified. And so it's possible that if they send you an email, and you might have to have somebody that's going to stand by just to make sure that everything looks correct and all that. So it sure seems that way, that in case if we all may know, is to where that how do you know whenever you have to have at least 3 or 4 witnesses? And I know a lot of these documents, electronic documents, and that would require a witness. You have to have at least 3 witnesses with you before you can sign a document. And I actually see that on if it's government documents or if it's insurance. If it's related to insurance or something like that. So it sure seems that way. That your signature proves your presence, and even if you're going to be signing something electronically, and maybe have like a witness there that's going to want to look at what you do, and staying to where if they actually witness you signing something, and half the time that what's the purpose of that, or for any reason at all, that this person, this witness, they could be somebody that you met on social media. It could maybe be aunt or uncle, whoever it is, and all they really have to do is just watch you and just witness you just signing a document. And half the time it sure seems that way, that it's like, say, that might be the next stage, is that after you do apply for a job, and whenever you are hired for a job, it's going to be signing a document. And so it sure seems that way, that whenever you do sign a document, though, it's like, that it doesn't just prove how you spell your name, or say if you put your initials, but also that proof of the presence, and then also about so half the time it sure seems that way, that the most important thing about being hired for a job is not really about making sure that you have extra pocket change, but just to make sure that you are ready to sign something. So it sure seems that way, that you would maybe wonder too, that why is it so important, even on a tax document, to have to sign and date something? But I guess they say too is to where that's one of the most important things, maybe because that you have read and agreed on those documents, And one of them could also be like, say, contract document in yellow, and one is also privacy and the policies and all those other documents. So we all know that even whenever you do apply for a job, that the next step is going to be is to where that we need you to agree upon this, to where that that whenever you are hired for a job, that we want you to sign here just to clarify that you read and understood all what the papers, what the documents say. And so yep, that so it's it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of reading, but as we all know, that I can maybe show some other examples of what I'm talking about. But still, though, when we talk about our name right here, and let's just say this was right here, it's me right here sitting at a desk right here, and that's important to know that as to where that your name represents your presence. And so let's just say that if your name is maybe going to be on a list of what you call that, at a wedding, or maybe if it's at a graduation ceremony, but still that whenever you sign your name on something, that sure seems that way. That people might even say too that why do you think that your name would be known as a good marketing tool for other companies? And let's just say maybe for a name brand, or just for who to be recognized for their hard work or something. But the way I think about it too, though, that for like a calendar, but the way I think about it too, though, that whenever I look at my name right here, that somebody's gonna maybe say is to where that whenever you sign your name, though, that you may want to know what it looks like, maybe in cursive, or maybe if you want to know what it looks like, maybe in a different language or something like that. You know this digital technology, though, that if you want to maybe look at your name as like a different interface, and let's say that if it is in a different language, it's like can you translate that to a different language? And you want to know too that how do you say Matthew McGuire in Spanish, Espanol or something. But I just really think too that that if anything it's la Macariac, or say Mato or something like that, Mato. And so I might say Lato. I'm like, Lato or something like that. You say, do you think Lato is how you say Matthew in Japanese? I'm like, Lato, or maybe in Spanish I can say Lato or something like that. Is how you say Matthew in Spanish or something. But anyway, translating your name to another language, and as well as but still that but I know with me, though, that I don't really recommend, like in case if anybody say that, really, whenever you experiment around with this digital software, though, are you just really seeing about how it works, or if anything, that, you're not really trying to do that legally? I'm like, that there are, what you call it, some things that you can do that are, say, but it has to know as to where if it's legal, but still, that half the time you are too, is that, that whenever you're trying to do something, why is it that your name should really have an impact on anything that you're really doing? And especially if it's working on a resume. You may wonder too is that even whenever you do, I'm like, apply for a job or get an account or something, anything that you do, you wonder that too as to why your name has to be having a big impact, because especially if companies that don't spell your name right, and then want to know too if they misspell your name or something. But still, that like I say too, is that that whenever you sign something, though, it sure seems that way. That your name, of course, it sure seems that way. That it's not that $50 down deposit or whatever you call it. A lot of times it's a name. So that's why it sure seems that way. That with your name, though, that for what you want to discover too. And I'll go and show everybody here that this right here, though, that and it sure seems that way, that whenever it comes to signing something electronically, though, it sure seems that way that want to know that I'm like, it's you can sign it like remotely to where you were there, but then also you were connected online, but. Anyway, but so about talk about the basic about the resume, but still, a lot more to a resume than what they see. It's not just one document, but then also go into the website and actually read the details on a profile and on the resume, on the website. But anyway, but there you have it, everybody. I talk about with resumes right here, and hopefully that's helpful to everybody. And thanks for watching, and have a great day.